And do you need to put that one on too?
Oh, go ahead, start. I'll start.
Okay. So go ahead and call to order the April 20th, 2020 commission meeting. This is meeting number 2020-13. And first we have the entire commission here, so we'll go ahead and go with a prayer followed by a pledge of allegiance. We'll have Dr. Sean Fletcher here lead us off in prayer.
Let us pray. For we know that if the tent that is our earthly home is destroyed, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, but eternal in the heavens. Lord Heavenly Father, we ask that you watch over today's proceedings and that you grant wisdom and knowledge and leadership to make those tough decisions in keeping with your will. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, so first up on our agenda is a public hearing, and this is for the Community Development Block Grant revolving loan application. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing part and ask to receive all oral and written comments. All right, hearing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing so the commission can discuss the issue. So the information is CDBG committee has received an application for emergency loan program, and this application is from Beck Sales Company Incorporated, Dodge City, Kansas. So HR Director Hecky is going to go over that with us.
This is the first emergency loan application that we've received working through Joanne and with Joanne and having conversations. Beck Sales is asking for a $100,000 loan. That's the maximum amount that we can give for each applicant. It must qualify where 51% of the jobs retained meet the low to moderate income level. That's a federal level set. This particular application does meet that. This company has 8 full-time and a 3/4 time employee, and they would be in jeopardy of having to shut down, lay off, or furlough if they weren't able to get some additional funding. The terms is three-year loan, 1% interest with a 6-month deferral for the first payment. Any questions?
How much do we have in total?
Right now, we
For
have about
available?
283,000, so we would still have 183 and a bit if we make this loan.
And this went in front of the committee.
No, the emergency part, the Department of Commerce has made this an emergency process, so they've streamlined it.
Okay.
The commission can approve it without it going through committee.
Okay.
Pat, what kind of information would committee be looking at as far as this application goes?
Most of the time when the committee meets, we check to make sure that they are low to moderate income. The percentage of employees qualify. A lot of times we work at securing the loan with some collateral. Department of Commerce took that off the table. We look at potential history, which if this were a normal loan would be different because we've already loaned Beck Sales the maximum allowed in this program. So it's those types of things.
In the past?
In the past.
And they paid that off?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
And then if it were a regular application, they would have to show that they had tried to get traditional funding, or conventional funding as well,
through a bank, and then turned down?
and turned down. They have to show that they were turned down.
So, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the community development block grant loan application from Back Sales Company, Inc., in Dodge City, Kansas, as published.
I would second that. With a motion second, any other discussion on the topic?
Well, my only situation here is that, how much total money do you have in your deal?
283,000.
So a third of the money you're gonna loan out. Now, what about all these little restaurants and things like that in this town that could definitely use this to get back in business? Like, as you
Mhm.
drive down the street, I see all these little restaurants closed and all that, and they're certainly gonna go out of business.
That's it.
And
That's
what-
good. We, actually, the city of Dodge City, and Joanne can speak to this, the city of Dodge City has the same program. Economic Development has some other funding and resources for them. Department of Commerce, I specifically asked if we could loan to city businesses, and they did tell me as a last resort, if Dodge ran out of money or Spearville, and we didn't have any applicants, we could step up and help. So far, last report I got from Joanne was the city was still doing okay. They still had money for the businesses. But that's good, there's a lot of resources.
You might come up, Joanne, just so they can hear you. They won't be able to see you in the hallway.
Okay, we have been facilitating this program for the city and the county and the city of Spearville. On the Beck Sales one, that's one Great Plains Development worked directly with, so I didn't have a lot of input on that particular one. I have sent out a couple of applications to other businesses, including Dodge City Salvage and Romero Stucco, that we're waiting to see if they meet the LMI, that those will be county ones. We also had sent it out to Superior Home Improvement, and I'm not positive that they're still gonna apply. I need to check back with them. So there possibly could be some more county ones coming to you. As far as the city, I have 6 of them that I'm presenting to them tonight. The last couple weeks have been chaos with the SBDA loans and the payroll protection one. And so this morning I went back through and called each of those 6 companies to say, where are you still at on your status? Do you still need this? Did you get the payroll protection? So we're gonna be able to reduce some of those down that did get the payroll protection to the city. I also, just not 30 minutes ago, got an email now changing that to where Dodge City businesses cannot get county funds. They had told us that to begin with, and just a few minutes ago, it came in that, the state came back and said no. So we have 403,000 in the city. If things go as we recommend tonight, about 200 of that will be loaned out, but I also have a handful of more applications for that as well. So, it's really up to you guys of what you wanna do with the county portion of it, but I am telling you, I will be coming to you for most likely a couple
2
more
more.
loans. That's not quite as large of a request.
My concern is like in Buckland and Spearville and places like that, got little restaurants and places like that, and there certainly would,
Spearville has 450,000 themselves.
well,
And so but we have not received any applications from them. So, I'm not concerned about Spearville. We did send it out to the Buckland.
how about the little old gal on board that's got the Blue Hereford, I mean,
Yeah, we've been advertising this because one of the things they did do is waive the 30-day public hearing
some
process.
of those Hispanic people are pretty scared though.
Yeah, and the ones that we have are a variety of different types of businesses here in Dodge, but again, the other ones we've promoted out there, and we haven't heard back yet from businesses, so, but I will have a couple more coming to you.
My only concern about this is, you're talking about 1/3 of the amount of money here is gonna go to one entity, and I people too, and they're good people. I used to do business with them.
You know, another thing that you could do, is make a suggestion today to up to a certain amount, and we can contact them and find out, if they need all of that, because some, like I said, some of them, they did get the payroll protection, but they've just gotten that in the last few days, and we started this application process 2 or 3 weeks ago. And so a lot of them were really panicking then because they weren't having any luck getting any of the federal stuff. But we could, you know, you could approve it at a certain level, and then we can go back through Great Plains or directly to Bex and say, you know, if we, would this amount work for you so that we have additional funding to go back in? That would be up to you guys.
In this particular case, it's been by the other 2 commissioners, so this, we should go on and move on because they approve it. And I just want to make that point out that there are other entities out there that some of them like applied to the federal government and they got Zippo.
Yeah.
Zippo.
And the what we ended up putting on it is a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 100, but you still have to meet that 35,000 per LMI job. So that's kind of where the guidelines are on it.
Thank you very much, girls, for your time.
So on the table, we have a motion second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, next up is the consent agenda, which we have the approval of the meeting minutes from 2020-11, the credit card statement for $30,929.82, the approval of additions and abatements. One abatement is $41,000 in the rears. It looks like the other one's $268 positive. And you are here, okay. That's what I was gonna ask about. I was like, I'd like to know about that one.
Yes,
You might have turned the microphone, we've kind of played with that.
there were some big ones, they were PUPs, big businesses, gave us income and expense information, which they don't give us
Oh.
at informal. So we gotta work it, and that's what they are. And we have some other ones coming up too, so just to warn you,
Okay,
there'll be some more coming in that
Okay.
we're getting. And our informals are down, which we expected it because of everything going on. So we're probably gonna have a lot of PUPs when they
Okay.
pay their taxes. That's when they're really gonna start looking at things, so. I'm
Okay.
hoping not, I can knock on wood, but
so that was one entity, or that was multiple?
it was one.
One, okay.
Yeah,
It's a big,
hold on. No, it was several. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 6 of them.
okay.
6 different ones, but one big one was 20,000. That was one entity, the other one was 12, just to kind of break it down. Then we had some smaller ones in there.
Okay,
And then we had a couple PUPs, but they were minor, they were only like $60, I think.
sure.
And a couple name changes. And we have to go through the abatement process to change the name. That's the way our system works, even though
Okay.
no value changed or anything, but you guys have to sign off so that we can get the name changed through to the treasurer's office.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Patty.
Also on the consent agenda is a Ford Township trustee resignation for Stephen Snook and a Ford Township trustee appointment for Colton Downey. So gentlemen, if you've had time to look this one over, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second that.
With the motion second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to claims for payment, this time is the amount of $549,881.71. And I would make a motion to approve the claims as presented.
I second it.
With the motion second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Not sure if we're gonna have this, but it's open public comment. So I'm not sure if anybody's in the building, but out in the hall. But if someone does come forward, please limit to 5 minutes per individual, 15 minutes per topic, and final action may be deferred until the next county commission meeting unless an emergency situation does arise. So I know we have some people on microphone as well, or through a phone, that they're listening. So if anybody has something, feel free to holler, because I won't be able to see you.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Hi, Angela.
Hello. I just wanted to give you an update, kind of some things that have transpired this weekend. Yesterday, I was able to pick up some additional personal protective equipment and supplies to do some testing. So we do have a method of doing some more testing. However, those are going to be more designated for the manufacturing plants at this time, those tests. There's still criteria that they have to meet in order for us to utilize those tests. So the state has advised us for these rapid tests that we will begin doing. If it's a first responder, law enforcement officer, critical to our infrastructure, then that would be a deviation, or if this person would have 10 or more contacts that they've had exposure to.
Okay.
So that's, I hope to have by tomorrow afternoon, something going, because we do have a team here to help us also do all of this testing. So logistically, we're trying to get that worked out right now, so we can start this tomorrow. I've already talked to both manufacturing plants, and we have a system set up, so they're gonna help us screen also, to see if somebody calling in might meet the criteria, and then they can come to us for testing.
Okay.
So that's pretty much what's transpired over the weekend or yesterday.
Okay.
And then otherwise, we're doing all of our contact investigation and tracing. So for every positive case, we have to make daily contact with them until they're not symptomatic. And then we can give them a release to return to work. Then we have to get their close contacts, quarantine them, and then we begin following them also. So we've just been really busy.
Yeah.
Right now, we haven't, we were doing additional services or services, essential services. Right now, we're really having to prioritize that. And I have worked something out to where maybe some of the local providers can help me with that. Because I don't want to not provide that service to some. You know, I want them to still get that service.
Mhm.
So, I'm working through that too, which is not a problem. I'm getting all that done, but, that's just what we're working on so far. You have any questions for me?
Angela, I've heard some about antibody testing. Is any of that available here in county at this time, or do we look at possibly having that available at any time?
Not at this time.
Okay.
I have not heard anything that that's going to be available to us anytime soon.
Okay.
But things are changing quickly.
What about blood testing? Is that what you're doing now?
That, it's a nasal swab.
Oh my God.
So, if you meet this criteria that we will go through with you, then we are going to do a nasal swab, and then we'll run the test, or send the test off.
I see.
We now have,
They don't take a swab out of your mouth, nothing like that?
no,
That's too simple.
they need the sample from the nasal.
So then how long does that take?
If you meet, the criteria for a person under investigation, which it's a case-by-case basis,
Okay.
for us to be able to use that rapid machine. If you meet the criteria, we should know either way in about 15 minutes. And that's from the time you dress out in your PPE, or you get your PPE on, you get the machine ready, you do the swab, you put the test back in the machine, you get the reading, and you notify the person, and then we need to, then we're giving direction to that person.
When they talk about the drive-by deals, and I see this on TV, and they show the temps when they drive the cars in there, and what are they doing, just checking the temperature?
No, they're actually doing the swab. That's our plan. We're probably gonna have some of them get out of the vehicle, but that's what they're doing. They're swabbing them while they're in the vehicle. They give them a mask and they put the mask on, and then when we're ready to do the swab, they'll remove the mask, we'll swab them, and then they'll put their mask back on, and then we'll run the test. Or send it off to Kansas Department of Health and Environment. And right now, I had put in a request last week for a courier to be able to run those tests for us. So we have a designated courier now. So we should get a faster turnaround even if we're not using the rapid test machine.
The rapid machine, we haven't got one of those Abbott's, have we? You're not talking about an Abbott machine.
I am.
You got an Abbott?
Yes, but that is there again, prioritized for use for the manufacturing plants right now.
I understand
Those who meet
that.
the criteria, yes, we
We
do.
sure we're all want them to operate. Yeah.
Yes, we do. Yes.
Blanche, I want to thank you for your service and your time. You're unbelievable.
You're welcome. Do you have any other questions or concerns I can answer? Or?
I don't have any concerns. I just think it's amazing how detailed I think your investigations have become to actually give us numbers like we have, because I think it's very easy to send someone down the road with just a few simple questions and not really dig. Because,
Yes.
I mean, I think, you know, a lot of times for us, we're getting pressure by our numbers, and the media always want to know what's going on and why aren't they feeling like they're as informed as maybe they should be, but truly they're getting as much information as we get. And it seems like your investigation team is really doing their job and finding everybody around maybe the person who could be the exposed
Mhm.
person, and then testing a lot of different people and finding those results, and that's why our numbers are up.
Absolutely, and and there's more testing available, you know, providers are doing that also.
Yeah.
So as more testing supplies become available, of course, we're gonna see an increase in cases because there's
So-
more testing.
So actually, in the case of the Abbott, you'd be the only one in town that have one, is that correct?
I can't give you an answer on that, I don't know.
Or you suspect?
I can't answer that, I really don't know.
Well, that's what I tell, that's my answer when the people ask me
Yeah,
about this.
I can check and see
I
who
don't
else
know.
might have one, but I honestly don't know.
I haven't called him.
No, yeah, yeah. So, I would say though, that, you know, we're
Yesterday.
seeing recovery. You know, people are recovering. So that's why numbers will change also, is because people do recover. And so, there's just such a fluid situation with numbers and contact investigations.
With the 171 we got right now, how many of them, are any of them over the deal? Do you take them on the number off when you talk about those numbers,
When they're recovered,
when they're recovered?
Yes.
they come
We-
off.
They come off some for you.
I see.
So you're saying some of the people that were at the very beginning of this
Mhm.
are not still being flagged in that 171? Some of those numbers have come off?
No, now in the
They're all flagged under, right?
171, they're all flagged.
That's right,
But
okay.
let's say, you know, if you would ask me for some numbers, that's why would be the discrepancy some. is
Sure.
Because I'm not gonna give you the entirety of the numbers, I'm gonna give you some that
What's
have
active.
recovered and what we're working on. Just right at hand at the moment.
See, that's good news. That's good news because I get all sorts of garbage from my wife about 171, you know, and it's gonna be 371 before we know it and all that.
Sure.
So anyway, I really appreciate what you've done.
Thank you, and thank you for your support.
If you get a chance to get another one of the machines, let's get some more.
I'll put in that request.
Okay.
I appreciate you not lashing out maybe on social media or things like that, where, not that you would, it's never been part of your character, but it just seems like a lot of times people are putting a lot of misinformation out there, and I think you having the truth you know, you probably want to defend some of that and seeing things they say about whether it's Ford County or individuals.
Right.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the high road and just
Yeah.
keep trucking on and,
Right, we just have to keep our focus, you know, we have a focus and we wanna do contact tracing and get hold of our positives and give people direction so we can hopefully get ahead of this
yeah.
the best we can.
Yep.
So, okay, any more questions?
I'd just like to say in the meantime, you know, assure the folks in Ford County that Angela and her staff are on top of the game. They are doing a fantastic job of doing some of the very things that we've seen some of the complaints about on social media. And I get the fear. And I get that when we have these numbers ramping up, because part of it, because you're doing a great job of what you're doing, that we feel that fear. However, you have all of the facts for keeping yourself safe, okay? If you're in a compromised state of health, you stay at home, okay? It's not gonna help you one way or another if you know that your neighbors down the street are suffering from coronavirus. It doesn't change what you have to do, and that is stay at home, okay? You know, again, I get the fear, but this lady and her staff are doing a great job, and the county's got it well in hand.
Thank you.
And I encourage everybody to remain calm, and we're gonna get through this.
Mhm. Exactly.
One good answer was explained to me today by somebody on Facebook, but you're testing so many more, so you're finding so many more. So this point was brought up to me today by a person that says, oh my God, Wichita's population is, and they got this many, and here in Dodge City's population with Ford County is 35,000, and we got 170, blah, 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 blah. I think JD probably told me today, so we're testing a lot more. If you don't test, you're not gonna get it.
Yes, exactly,
So, God bless you,
exactly. Thank you.
and thank you very much.
Thank you for your support, appreciate it.
Thanks, Angela.
Probably ends our public part of the meeting, and we'll move right on into legal counsel.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Glenn.
Good afternoon. And we have Angela here. She can answer any specific questions you might have. This is a health department program. It's administered by the health department program. It's a program that Ford County has participated in for a number of years. It's the statewide farm workers health program. The health department provides makes available certain services which it provides for these folks who qualify. And then reimbursement comes from the program for that work. Just as kind of an aside, this contract, we see it with some frequency, and I noticed in this year's contract, they said this will be a continuing contract, either party can terminate it with 30 days notice, so we won't probably be looking at it quite so frequently. But this is a program that the health department would like to participate in. We've looked at the contract, and we'd recommend that the board approve the contract.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve this contract for the Kansas Statewide Farm Workers Health Program.
I would second.
All right, with motion second, any further discussion on it? Hearing none, I'll call vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Glenn.
Good, thank you, that's all I had.
Mr. Chairman,
forgot to amend the agenda.
I'm pretty sure we
earlier on
did.
in the meeting. I'd make a motion at this time to amend the agenda to remove item number 4 and item number 8 under the county administrator's report.
I second that.
And apologies for having missed it before.
Well, it's okay, I missed it as well. So a motion second to amend the agenda and take off item number 4 under the county administrator's report and number 8 under the county administrator's report. Those will probably show up at one of the future meetings here shortly. All those in favor?
Aye.
And we now move into the county administrator's report on county operations.
So the first item is county operations, Mr. Chairman, as you just mentioned, and the stay-at-home order with, from the state has been extended to May 3rd. So it's just like we did the last meeting, just a conversation about whether or not we're gonna continue operating how we are until May 3rd, or if we're gonna change anything in between.
I think what's interesting about this, not that we have a motion or anything, but just openly talk, you know, we've definitely seen the cases ramp up here. Not so much in our neighboring counties or around the area, but I think we've definitely seen the ramp up of that. The other thing, we've seen KDHE come out and actually explain that, you know, Finney County has 3 potential private businesses that are hotspots or whatever you want to call it, and Ford County potentially has 2 and Seward has 1, and everybody's trying to make a guess at what that is. And I know we can't talk about these unless we get informed by that business. But this is privacy laws, HIPAA laws, where that provides coverage for people's private information when it comes to health. And I think maybe to the common person in the community, they may not understand that, but I would say that as far as county operations and the stay-at-home for May 3rd and kind of knowing what we've seen happen, I think that we should extend the stay-at-home to May 3rd, and that would be a motion I would put into play.
I second that.
And let's discuss it. We have a motion second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm actually of a different opinion.
Okay.
And I know that sounds strange with the number of cases that we've had show up in the county, but we have just discussed it. We're identifying a lot of these cases because of the great job that they're doing at the health department in running to ground these investigations. The cases that we've had here so far, we've just had very minimal hospitalization out of. We have not had deaths associated with it so far. In fact, I think, Angela, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've had patients tested in these investigations that are asymptomatic, is that right? They're not feeling sick, but have tested positive for this, so that the actual physical effects of the disease on those that are in a healthy state is maybe not that harmful, or not that severe. Now, as I mentioned earlier, for our folks who are at compromised health situations, absolutely, we have to do everything we can to safeguard those folks in those situations, and I absolutely do not want to say that that's not important. But on the other hand, I think we've learned a lot about this virus as we've gone along. And I have a hard time that we continue to keep our economy sequestered when the evidence is that for the healthy folks, it's just not that severe. We have, today is the 20th, we have approximately 20 days before we're going to be asking people to come in and pay their property tax. Those people to this point, for the last 2 weeks or better, have been complying with the stay-at-home order. Have been, some of them without their incomes, some of them not able to work in their businesses, and their businesses not being able to be open and running and bringing in revenue. All the while our folks that you know we've sent home, and I agree with what we've done to this point, have been at home with pay, and I think that we need to really be thinking about that as we come on this tax deadline coming up, that you know this thing has badly hurt some people, and that we're going to have some folks that are not going to be able to step up and pay that bill. And given what I feel is the level of severity of this thing, I am inclined to think that maybe we need to start thinking earlier than May 3rd about getting people back to work.
So what's the date now? What did the state set it for?
May 3rd.
No, I'm talking about when we voted before, how long did we close it for?
Until the end of this order, but it was extended. The order was extended until May 3rd. We didn't get to that we didn't get to that date, that cutoff date, because they extended it.
April 19th was the original date, but the governor extended that date, or May 3rd.
You put up a very good argument, my friend, that you got my conservative self thinking too. I'm not gonna have any trouble with my taxes, but some of my friends might. So if Mr. Tassett, if you, when would you, well, tell me when, if it was just totally up to you, when would you release this deal? I'm asking, I'm not trying to intimidate you, I'm just asking because I'm curious. You put a very good argument up.
My thought would be is that we start with our staff, with our employees, and I visited with JD last week already a little bit about this, and in that we go through a process, start going through a process, I should say, of profiling our employees about who maybe have those health concerns, or perhaps they're living with somebody who may have a compromised health status that they need to be careful of, and we need to be mindful of that kind of thing, and start with our staff about starting to bring them back into work and starting to bring our services back online, and I could see us starting that as early as the end of this week or the first of next. Now, of course, the private sector, that's, you know, there's still a stay-at-home order on, you know, from the governor. And, you know, for the reasons that I just laid out, you know, I'd encourage the governor to take a second look at this and realize that you know, it's, of course, easy to say this here, I suppose, but a one size doesn't necessarily fit all type of thing here either. I mean, here in Ford County, we have, you know, the 171 cases that we're showing right now, but we have counties around here whose economies are just as sequestered as anybody else's in the state, and they don't have any. You know.
But maybe they're not doing as much testing.
Well, and that's entirely possible.
That was brought out to me by another individual today, and so
That's entirely possible, Commissioner Snook, and the reason I asked about the antibody tests is because in other areas of the world where they're doing and are able to do some of those antibody tests, they're finding a lot of people that were never tested positive for coronavirus that have the antibodies in their system. So at some time or another, they were exposed to, at least exposed to, and probably, you know, contracted the virus and never knew they had it. That population is probably quite a bit bigger than we realize. We're probably seeing more of it here because of the job that Angela and her staff are doing. You make a valid point. But on the other hand...
But you make a very valid point too. To me, you've already made me want to rescind my second of the deal. I just thought when the governor put down the third day of May, it was a done deal.
If you don't mind, real quick, just a point of order, Commissioner Snook, since we're in the discussion, you wouldn't have to rescind your second when it came to vote. And let's say you and Commissioner Tassett were on the side of nay about extending it, then you would just vote nay. You wouldn't have to remove your second, and that would take care of that motion.
Yep.
I would also ask that I know you gentlemen are still discussing this, and I'm trying to break in, but if you do move to extend it to May 3rd, it gives us an opportunity, administration, to develop a plan this week that we can bring back to either to a special meeting. We can have a special meeting and say we're going to continue. We're going to I can't think of the word I'm looking for.
Restructure?
Reevaluate or...
No, basically slowly ramp our services back up, because our department heads have already determined which functions are essential. And so if we're bringing people back just for the fact to bring them back, and they're not going to be doing anything that's essential, I feel like that could be a possible. There's no reason to expose people, employees is what I'm saying, just for the sake of ramping back up.
So you're thinking like a skeleton shift or something like that?
Which is what we're doing already. We're already working with skeleton crews. We have departments that are still working full staff too. I just think it would be easier at this point, of course, gentlemen, I'm not trying to interrupt you, to extend the order to give me an order in the motion to work through this process this week, and maybe bring it back to the commission at a special meeting, so we can see what that would look like.
I think I would be open to a motion that would extend this to next week, and we go ahead and set that meeting for next Monday.
Okay.
Not to put two motions on the table there, but I mean, we should take care of that one first, but.
Yeah, I think the original thought on why it would do May 3rd is because, we're basically following the transition of the state, and I do understand the whole one-size-fits-all mentality isn't necessarily fit here as well. I'm also trying to think about what perception that gives to the public. You know, where there's a lot of businesses that can't go to work, and we have, you know, operations in full again. Be interesting. Let me see something.
I think on the disease investigation side, what I think would be important to point out, Angela, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but as been stated, we don't have any evidence of community spread right now, which means we're able to trace every case back to an already identified case. If we bring operations back and we're exposing, theoretically exposing people, we might be at some point the source of community spread, because we may not be able to determine. I mean, that's just a perception that we have to deal with too. And even if it wasn't a source of community spread, if we become another hot pocket, if we could become another one of those areas, and we did it a week before the stay-at-home order was lifted,
Would we be liable in a case like that? Say we brought it back and then somebody picked up COVID-19? Would be a chance of being a lawsuit? We've had enough lawsuits since I've been here.
Well-
It'd be scary.
Well, you know, you can always be in a lawsuit. I mean, if
Well, I
someone
understand
chooses to
that,
file
but
a
I
lawsuit.
mean, but
I don't think that would be a very good cause of action. I mean, I don't think you're just saying we're gonna recklessly do something here. You're talking about how to get back into operations, and I'm sure you wanna do it in some orderly fashion that would protect both the employees and the public. And so that would not be my greatest fear, is we would be in a lawsuit.
I think it's important to say, while we have been off, we've taken a lot of those steps to help protect our staff from that exposure too.
Correct.
I mean, some improvements to our facilities here in order to minimize that exposure. So, you know, that's important to say that. It hasn't just been an empty building here and nothing going on. We've been making some steps to improve that, so.
Yeah, I think what I would be more geared to looking at the health side of it than I would about some fear of legal repercussions. I mean, I think just from a legal standpoint, I think that has much more importance than a fear that somebody might sue us who would become ill.
I would amend my motion to actually extend it to April 27th. And as long as we have a special meeting and give admin a time to look at how this comes into play and have a discussion that day on a special meeting about whether it's full or it's partial. I'm okay with that. I mean, to me, that's a week from the deadline in the first place, and it gives us time to look at that. We're talking about 2 weeks here. I have no problem amending that.
I would second that motion.
So it would be amended to say we are doing a stay-at-home order until April 27th with a motion that admin look at a plan to ramp us back up into a full working staff.
it would be, we're
Keep it.
continuing to monitor, we're
County
continuing to
operations
move
as
There we go.
as we are until April 27th.
Okay. Yes. And the meeting on that date, what time, gentlemen? Since we should probably go ahead and get that all out now.
The 3:30 time works for me, if that works for everybody else.
Same.
I'm awful busy, but that'll work for me too.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion second for that. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Gentlemen, the second item we have on the agenda is for an update from Pioneer Creek Wind Farm, and we have Joanne. It's going to get, you have him on the phone already?
No,
She's gonna get Dan Scheffler, who's a representative from Pioneer Creek, on the phone so he can basically do the update.
Yes, just to let you know, on a positive stance, we actually have been very busy with prospects right now, and Dan is from Florida. He was wanting to come out here and hasn't been able to, but he is the developer with NextEra Energy, representing Pioneer Creek. And he's gonna have somebody else come on the call as well, so.
Hello, Joanne.
Hi, Dan. You are on the mic with the county commission, so I'll go ahead and turn it over to you for an update.
Okay, perfect. Let me go ahead and merge the call with my colleague Kimberly Dickey. Hold on, give me 1 second. Hello, Kimberly, are you there?
I'm here, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So, good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Dan Scheffler. I'm the project manager for NextEra Energy. And I just wanted to give you a little background about myself before we go into the project update. Just give you a little background of my experience and how I got to NextEra. I've been with NextEra for roughly 5 years. I have spent the entirety of the 5 years within the development organization of the company. And previously, for 5 years prior, I think it was, 5 years prior, I did a lot of commercial development for a construction firm in South Florida. I did reside in South Florida. That's where the company's headquarters is located. But really happy to be on the call and really excited about our opportunity in Ford County. And with that, I will let Kimberly introduce herself before we get into the project update.
Good afternoon, my name is Kimberly Dickey. I work with Dan at NextEra. Just for a little description about my role on our project, predominantly when I'm supporting our developers and our development projects, I kind of wear 2 hats. Predominantly I'm wearing my permitting hat, so working very closely to make sure that our projects are compliant with local codes, with everything from township permitting, county level permitting, and supporting any of our state permit requirements as well. So that's predominantly one side of my role on the project, and then the other side is working to support our projects at the community level and finding opportunities to engage through education and partnerships as we go through our development process and getting those into a really good place where when we are in our operations phase, we have a solid level of support within the community to support our operating facility. So that's my background. I work in Kansas, I work in Missouri, I work in Nebraska, and Iowa, and southern Minnesota. But I live in Iowa, and born and raised here. My family has a Black Angus cattle farm, and so predominantly they're doing all the chores Monday through Friday while I work for NextEra on my development projects. But look forward to weekends too when I can be on the farm.
Well, perfect. So I don't know if we wanted to go around. I know it's specifically in this environment, it's a little awkward. We definitely like to come and introduce ourselves, face to face. But if the commission would like to go around with just a really quick introduction.
Sure. My name is Chris Boyes. I'm currently chairman of Ford County. Don't know if that's fair enough for you. If you want more.
Commissioner Sean Tassett, District 1.
Commissioner Ken Snook, District 3.
That's it, just 3.
It's only 3 commissioners, and J.D. Gilbert, our county administrator, is here as well, as Debbie Cox, the county clerk.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for your time. It's a pleasure. So what I'll do is we'll go ahead and give you the update. The project goes by the name of Pioneer Creek, and taking a step back from the project, we acquired the project back in, I think we closed on the portfolio late 2016, early 2017 from Infinity Renewables. I think they were acquired by MAP. So we bought a pretty sizable portfolio from MAP that encompassed projects from all over the country. And the Pioneer Creek project was one of the projects. So, kind of fast forwarding to the end of 2017, early 2018, we were still developing the project. We were still looking at its viability. And what ended up happening was we took a look at the transmission kind of network upgrades. And as I'm sure some of y'all are aware, Western Kansas has a congestion and infrastructure challenge, if you will, and that's kind of all of the western and northern United States where there's a lot of injection from renewable resources at certain times of the day. So at that specific point in time, we didn't want to put up, there were millions of dollars in critical network upgrades to infrastructure, and at the time we didn't have a commercial customer or an off-taker to buy the project or to go into a contract with us for a long-term power purchase agreement. So we had to make a business decision, and we shelved the project. So we have a lot of desktop data and everything to go along with this project, and we kind of set it aside and go for a couple of years, and that's where we are today. And where we are today is we are proposing a 150 megawatt project. It's roughly right around the realm of 60 to 65 turbines. Very similar to the turbines that are in operation as far as height. They would be under the 500-foot threshold. And we do have commercial interest, and there are some caveats within the electrical systems where transmission necessarily isn't so much of a challenge anymore. There's been some certain rules that have changed with independent service operators where we can inject our power outside of a normal process, if you will. And with that, the 150 megawatt project would bring roughly $25 million into Ford County. And as I'm sure all of you are aware, the temporary construction jobs, anywhere from 200 to 300 temporary construction jobs, and the full-time employment for an operating set of that magnitude is anywhere from 6 to 10 full-time employees. And the project is located, entirely in Ford County, and we are looking. It's just to the east of, I think, National Beef and Sunflower's piece of land. It looks to be about 8 to 9 miles due east, and that's the project boundary. And as time goes on, I will definitely provide a project boundary of where exactly we are targeting, and I'll give you all that information just as soon as I get it.
Dan, is that east of Cargill instead of National? And then up towards Wright, Kansas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you are correct. It is Cargill, not Nashville.
Okay.
So, one thing that I did want to make very clear is our response and our responsibility in this environment due to COVID-19. One of our major development hurdles is the leasing of the grounds, and we just call that land acquisition. So we lease the property from your constituents and landowners, and that's typically a conversation, whether it's via phone or in person. I did want to let you know that myself specifically, I've been quarantined. This is my 4th week, getting a little kind of stir crazy in my home down here. I do travel to Kansas quite frequently, but that's everything that's been going on and progressing. I have not traveled, but I did want to make it clear we do have one land agent who is from the Kansas area, and he has been contacting landowners via phone. And if the landowners are interested in meeting, it is on their prerogative. And I have expressed my concern with the land agent to please exercise all of the precautions that instilled by the CDC as far as 6 feet apart and go from there. But a lot of the work was done probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. So we are kind of in a holding pattern just for kind of our legal process and drafting of the agreement in-house. And then just to give you an update of land acquisition, we have about 30% of the project area currently leased, and the landowners are interested in signing up the property. But I just wanted to, to make it clear that we are exercising common sense and we're being really responsible with COVID-19, especially with Fort County. We are monitoring that very closely, and we understand that there are some cases, and we do want to respect that as well.
What is your time frame, Dan?
So the time frame, thanks very much. The time frame for commercial operations, so when we want to flip the switch, if you will, we're looking at the end of the year in 2021. So by December 15th, 2021, we would love to be operating. And then to that note, an important milestone that we would need to accomplish is around the May, so within the coming weeks, we have all of the desktop analysis that has been conducted along with some survey work from a couple of years ago, but we would need to get back in the field probably either before planting or after planting, and just do what we call labor siting. So we just have an environmental project manager, we have an engineering and construction project manager, and they just go shoot elevations to make sure that critical infrastructure is in floodways or floodplains. As of right now, that is still targeting an early to mid-May. That could change, but there is no coordination needed with constituents or landowners. It's just a simple call just to grant access, and everything could be handled from there.
Do any of you have any questions for Dan?
I don't know if I really have a lot of questions. I think mine probably goes more back to legal counsel, just where we're at in the process of going through the conditional use permit, road maintenance agreements, those type of things.
I'm not aware that anything has been done with regard to any of that.
Yeah, so I think we just need to start that process.
Okay. Dan, have you been in touch with Mark Schreiwise from the county here at all?
No, I haven't. Is that internal counsel?
Yeah, it was internal counsel that just mentioned, that process on the conditional use permitting needs to probably start now as well.
Okay. How do you spell the last name?
He's confused. He
He's-
thinks Mark
yeah.
Schreiwise is
Yeah, I
internal
think it was
counsel.
Mark.
Yeah, Mark is not. Mark's the planning staff person. Glenn Curbs is the legal counsel that you'll need to work with. And I can get you a contact for him.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I would appreciate it. And then also just on that note, is it a formalized conditional use permit, or is it kind of similar to some other counties through a road use and maintenance agreement, developer agreement, kind of compensation agreement with the pilot, or is it all under a conditional use permit?
The conditional use permit is one thing, and then the agreements are a part of that, not within the conditional use permit.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
So negotiated separately from the CUP, right?
Okay, anything else? All right, well, I appreciate the update, Dan, and we'll make sure we get you the right contacts to continue to move forward.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. I really appreciate everyone's time, and stay safe and be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne.
You're welcome.
Okay, gentlemen, item number 3 is another call in, and I'm about to call County Engineer John Hobbywalks.
Good afternoon, this is John.
Hey, John, this is JD, and you have the floor. Everybody's listening to you.
All right, good afternoon. Appreciate you allowing me to call in today.
You got John?
Yeah, this is John Hosby Walks, Ford County engineer. Giving my monthly engineering report. So I'm going to go through, we're really just going to go through the active projects right now. I know you guys have a pretty full agenda today. And certainly if you have any questions or other items to bring up, feel free to do so. The first item I was going to cover is the off-system Bridge 31 reconstruction and roadway realignment. This is on 114 Road, north of Garnett. The last time in February this project was discussed, had a couple landowners there at the meeting that had provided some discussion about the realignment. And so some question was brought up about whether the county would proceed forward with the improved alignment for 55-mile-per-hour design or reconstruct the bridge in its current location. And it didn't feel like we got really clarification on how to proceed with the project after the February meeting, so was asking for some further discussion or clarification from the Board of Commissioners on how we wanted to proceed.
Mr. Hobbywalks, thank you, and that probably needs clarified because I need a little time to think about what the gentleman brought to the meeting there last time. But Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we continue with the new bridge and the improved road alignment, retaining the 55-mile-an-hour curve design. Yeah, I would make that motion.
John, did you hear that?
Yes, I did. A motion was made to replace the bridge and continue with the realigned curves for a 55-mile-per-hour design. What I heard?
Yep. We're waiting for a second, then discussion.
John, I'll give a second and open it up for discussion. What are all the options we have on this one, John? Obviously, we could leave it alone. We could move forward with the new design of the 55-mile-an-hour speed for the road. Wasn't there a second option in here as well? Like an improved structure, but not as much of a speed, like more like 35 or 40?
We had, when we did the original study in 2006, we had laid out an alignment for both 55 and a 45. Now, granted, those alignments were based on just known topographic maps, and so they were pretty rough alignments. To where we're at today, we have the county surveyor surveyed the project area for accurate topography, and then we laid out a new roadway alignment for the 55-mile-per-hour design. And so where we're at right now is the design is essentially done. We're ready to move forward with purchasing of the land for new right-of-way, if that's the direction the county desires to go. Now, we said that, yes, there's options to do multiple different designs. The county could choose to go forward with a lower speed limit realignment. Of course, that would require us to essentially start over on the design side. or you could replace the bridge where it's at, basically in the same configuration or with a wider bridge to allow better access of agricultural equipment across it.
John,
With the current alignment, we had our geotechnical firm go out and take soil borings for where the bridge is proposed to be on the 55-mile-per-hour alignment. It was decided to reconstruct the bridge where it is now. We need to have them come back and take new borings at the existing bridge location.
John, Kenny Snook here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
In regard to the two farmers that were in here was definitely not in for the 55-mile-an-hour speed that came in and talked to us the other day, or 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, or something like that. So what's the difference in the price between going to 55 and replacing just a bridge and remain at 45? I'm asking a wider bridge to all the farmers wanting to get across. What's the difference in the cost? We're looking at with all this shutdown and everything, according to what I think, maybe we're looking for a little less money coming into the county. So, and I know we're only talking about 20%, but also the state's got this same problem too. So what's the difference in the cost? I mean, just roughly, what is the difference?
I don't have that right in front of me. If you give me a minute or so, I can look up the cost estimate that we had. Now, this project is different than the bridge that was down by Ford. This particular project is going to be 100% funded by the county.
Oh, that does make a difference to me.
Yeah, and with that in mind, we have designed the new bridge to utilize some steel beams that the county already has in their yard over by Coronado Road. So, the county would have to purchase new steel beams that they've already been purchased, and these were purchased years ago by a previous county engineer and been sitting in the yard. So we'd be utilizing some materials the county already has in possession for the bridge. All the dirt work was proposed to be done by county forces. So I don't really have an accurate cost on what the dirt work would be. That would just be depending on what the county is using for equipment and how much time it would take to do that work.
Based on your general knowledge, though, what would be kind of the difference in the money? Since it's all county money, as you just pointed out.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously just to replace the bridge would be significantly less than building a new roadway alignment. Maybe like if you took the total project cost of how we have it lined out now with the new roadway alignment, the new bridge I would guess about half of that cost roughly. If you were to go with from the 55 mile, or excuse me, go from the 55 mile an hour alignment to a 45, that probably would only reduce the cost of the overall project about 10%. It wouldn't be a significant difference.
Say that again? 10% of what? I thought you said about half.
If you were to reduce the design speed from 55 mile per hour to 45 mile per hour,
yes, sir.
But that change, you wouldn't have a real significant cost difference. In that instance, I would estimate it maybe a 10% cost reduction.
What about the cost of the land and everything and changing all that?
Again, it wouldn't have a real significant change in it would be less acreage of land needed, but it really wouldn't be that significant of a change. We were looking at purchasing just a handful of acres for this new alignment.
So why was those two farmers in there, why did they come in there to talk to about not doing the 55 mile? You remember that conversation? You were here.
Yeah, their opinion was that the road doesn't get enough usage.
Well, it
That's
doesn't.
warranted
Have you ever driven over it very much? It doesn't
I
get
wouldn't
very
say I've
much.
driven over it very much, but I've driven over it.
I see. You've probably driven over more than I have, but, my next door neighbor's place is right north of there, and I used to go up there pretty regular to see him, and,
Commissioner Snook, if I may, I think the reason that it's not getting a lot of use right now is because of that bridge being as narrow as it is. And if we went in and put a wider bridge there where we could get the farm equipment across, I mean, I think the main reason for trying to get that road and that bridge improved is in order to get the farm traffic off of the blacktop. But, John, can you answer, if we stayed with the road alignment that's there right now and we replace the bridge where it's at, does any of the existing road alignment gonna need improved in order to get the farm equipment and passing vehicles through, or you do understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I mean, certainly the road alignment now is pretty challenging for even just a piece of equipment to get through there, even with a wider bridge. When I drove through there, I felt comfortable at 20 to 25 miles per hour is all because of how sharp the curves are, and the roadway is cut down lower than the adjacent ground, so it's hard to see ahead of you going around those curves. There's not a lot of sight distance in front of the driver.
Okay.
Can you give us a ballpark of what the 55 mile an hour would cost?
I'm trying to see. So we didn't really cost out the dirt side of things. If the county was going to do that themselves, I don't know if Chris is available to
He's here.
speak into that. We had estimated right now about $80,000 to $90,000 to construct the bridge itself. And was looking to see if we had any quantities at all for the dirt work.
I don't think we've gotten into that yet, John. I think we've just been talking about the alignment and the bridge part itself. I don't think we've dug into the cost or even the quantities of how much dirt would need to be moved.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
So our gentlemen that were here, one of them was a landowner, the guy that we'd be talking to about purchasing the right of way from, and I believe, he said that I really don't want to give up any more than I have to here, and I certainly get that, but I don't think that he said he was dead set against the new alignment either. I mean, he was cordial in his statements there, I guess. The other gentleman that came in was talking about the 55 mile an hour alignment and having kids out there and with the new 55 mile an hour alignment, having them run up down there 70 mile an hour. And I actually think the opposite way of that. I mean,
It's still safe.
it's still a safer curve at 55 mile an hour, even though they're probably going to be driving a little faster than the 20 mile an hour curve where we can't see, and they're probably trying to take the 20 mile an hour curve at 40 mile an hour right now too. So that was my thought on that. But
Would you like, John, to get those numbers put together since we're having a special meeting Monday? to see if we can get those numbers that you're looking for those different options and be able to better answer your questions.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like a vote on the motion.
I would say, I mean, if we're gonna be doing the dirt work ourselves, that money, either we're gonna spend that money doing that project, or we're gonna spend that money doing a different project somewhere else in the county. So, to me, really, the big cost difference between the bridge, repairing the bridge where it's at now, or doing the new alignment would be the cost of the new bridge and the cost of the right-of-way acquisition. Since we'd be using county forces and county equipment and stuff, either we're doing that project or we're doing something else. That money's gonna get spent one way or the other.
Yeah, I'd call for a vote. So we currently have a motion on the table for the 55 mile an hour design speed and replace the bridge where it is now. Is that right?
Replace
No,
the
no,
bridge
sorry.
on the
New alignment.
On the new alignment, thank you. Yep. So I'd go ahead and call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. John, if you can work up that 55 mile an hour design speed, improving those curves, that would be great.
Okay, we will move forward with the 55 mile per hour design then. I appreciate the discussion and trying to satisfy everybody's questions and come to a consensus, so appreciate that. The next item that I've been working on the past several months really is roadway improvement projects for Jewel Road, 102 Road, and 113 Road. So at last meeting, we had Terracon as our geotechnical engineering firm working on collecting soil borings in all three roadways, and they were going to prepare a pavement design to reclaim these three roads, starting with Jewel Road first, and we had specifically cited out kind of the middle section of Jewel Road for the first segment as budget would allow. So Terracon did collect these soil borings back in March, and they took their soil samples back to their laboratory and did a battery of testing on the soils. And on April 10th, they did provide, since the new Jewel Road was the first priority, they did the soils from that road first and provided the geotechnical report and pavement design recommendation on April 10th. So the budget that was laid out by Ford County for this first segment was based upon a 3-inch hot mix asphalt overlay, Terracon's pavement design came up with a 3-inch hot mix asphalt overlay on top of a cement stabilized base would provide a 20-year design life of the pavement. Because in essence, that's saying if the roadway was built with those features, cement stabilized base and a 3-inch hot mix overlay, it would last 20 years, give or take, if nothing else was done to it, and then it would be pretty much out of its design life. So certainly the county will continue to chip and seal and things like that over time. And so that would help extend the life a little bit beyond 20 years with no significant action. By placing an additional inch of hot mix overlay, so a 4-inch asphalt overlay would then extend the design life of that roadway to 30 years. Some thoughts that I had with if the county decides to move forward with the project is we could bid it out as an ad alternate, just to see what kind of prices you come up with. And we're getting, so you would bid a base bid with a 3-inch asphalt overlay, and then have the additional 1-inch overlay as an add alternate. And the county could choose to throw in an extra inch of asphalt to go to 4-inch soil thickness if the prices were within your budget. We're getting late enough into the spring that I think it's good to move forward with trying to solicit bids this summer. But in my opinion, I would provide the contractor the option of starting the project in the spring of 2021 if the county budget will allow it to do that. A lot of asphalt contractors are filling their schedules already with projects, and we may have trouble squeezing this project in the 2020 construction season at this point in time. So if the county's still interested in moving forward, what I'm working on doing is working with Terracon to learn how to implement their pavement recommendation into a plan and specification for contractor bidding. And I would present a design agreement to the county. My goal is to have it ready for the next, the meeting 2 weeks from now for presentation, or I guess the first meeting in May. Would be an appropriate thing to say.
Does that need a motion?
I don't think it needs a motion necessarily. That's been the plan all along.
Right.
I guess the motion would come in case the county decided they wanted to do something different at this point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think what you're doing is you're just bringing us 2 options. And we would then pick one of those at that later time. My motion and second, and working through it. These 3 roads aren't being addressed this year.
113.
This year would just be a portion of Jewel Road.
What we planned on doing is, since we would start on Jewel Road with this reclamation, we're gonna put an overlay, a cold mix overlay on 113 and on 102 road, just to get them smoothed up and get them passable, because it could be 4-5 years before we get to, with the budget that we have allowed, to get to those roads to get them reclaimed.
Couple comments I would throw in there just for consideration. The cost of designing the project is going to be very small compared to the cost of construction. Completing the project design does not obligate the county to move forward with soliciting bids or actually constructing the project. Even if you solicit bids, the county's not obligated to accept a bid if financial status changes through the course of the summer. The one thing that I've been watching, and there's no guarantees of what's going to happen, but if the county were to have a design in place ready to bid a project and an economic stimulus package when it comes from the federal government, you would be in prime position to go after some federal dollars to assist with a greater portion of the project.
Well, I think you need to continue moving forward with that design, and I like the idea of having the option for that last inch of overlay on there. I mean, for the extra 10 years of life that you get out of that, I don't see over the next 30 years that we're probably gonna find a cheaper time than right now to purchase the pavement. You know, I mean, it's just, I mean, if for nothing else, we're running out of gravel around here. We can't, you know, we're you know,
And
our resources just seem to be less and less all the time, and we're probably not gonna find it cheaper. 30
We
years
continue
from now.
with, the county continues doing the seal job on top of it every 5 years, like we've been doing. Then that's gonna push that life out 40, 50 years before something has to be done major to it again.
I don't really know that there's action here, other than just getting us that information 2 weeks from now. And John, we do have a meeting next Monday as well.
Okay, I probably won't have anything ready by that quick. I've still been trying to set up a discussion with Terracon on how to implement this into a spec book, so it may be middle or end of this week before I'm able to get that meeting set up with them, and then I'll need some time to put together a document for, and of course, you need that. I need to have it to the county by probably Thursday to have it on your agenda anyway. So it's probably gonna have to be the first meeting in May, which I think that's fine.
Okay.
And also, I'm continuing to work on the revamping the cost share application to KDOT to also get some additional money if KDOT were to award some money for this project. So originally KDOT had set, I think it was April 15th, if I remember right, as the cost share application date. And with all the stay-at-home orders and KDOT people were trying to figure out how to work from home, they ended up extending the deadline to May 18th. So essentially what I've been working on is getting letters of support. I've gotten 2 of them so far, one from USD 381 in Spearville, and one from the Alliance Ag in the right elevator there. And I'm still trying to get a third one from USD 443 in Dodge City. Theirs isn't quite as meaningful in the short term because they don't currently pick any kids up over there. They said they have in the past, but right now they're not. So their letter would be more of, we picked up kids for ride in the past on Jewel Road, and we might again in the future. So it will be a benefit to that school district possibly in the future. But we do have 2 good letters of support to attach to the next application. So things are looking good there. So we'll continue moving forward then.
Okay. John,
the only other, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say we did have a phone call just a second ago from Pioneer Creek Wind Farm. We had a Dan Scheffler and a Kimberly McGee, so I'm sure that we'll be contacting you on their road use and maintenance agreement, and that will be something coming forward. So.
Okay, fantastic. Good to hear.
Are you next reporting on Iron Star then?
Yes, that was going to be my next topic, and there's not a whole lot to report on that, other than they did contact the county zoning department and advised that they were planning to move forward with gathering their geotechnical investigation data for designing the wind farm foundations, the wind tower foundations. I don't think they really gave a firm date necessarily. They said they had a geotechnical company lined up and we're going to be getting started. At this time, they have not yet submitted a conditional use permit application to the county, so they're still a ways off from building anything. But I think what they had said before is they were looking at either end of 2020 or maybe early 2021 for start of construction. And from what I've been experienced, if they're doing geotech now, that schedule seems like it would probably still be a reasonable assumption at this point. So we will be working with them on a road maintenance agreement as well, I would say as the summer comes into play. And I would say the same is true with the Grain Belt Express power line project. I do know that there's at least one other county that has provided them some feedback on their draft road maintenance agreement that they presented back in February. And we helped that county. We helped that county mark up that road maintenance agreement that was provided by Invenergy. So we'll see what Invenergy has to say about that. And Invenergy's aware that we're working with a handful of counties, so we told them that most likely whatever road maintenance agreement they settle on, these counties will probably all pretty well follow the same suit. And they had advised that they were looking at starting construction in about early 2022, so they're a ways out yet. Yeah, that's the conclusion of my report for today. Does anybody have any other questions or discussion?
Thank you, John. Be safe.
Again, I appreciate you letting me call in today, and I look forward to coming back in the near future. Y'all stay safe as well, and take care of yourselves. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, John.
See you, John.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, moving on to the next item is open enrollment for online option. That's for Pat Heckey, HR Director. She'll have the next few items.
Good afternoon. Okay, this is more of an information. I would like to suggest that we offer our open enrollment for benefits online or electronically. It was scheduled for, I believe, the 19th and 20th of May, which is pretty far out, and everything may be back to normal. But a few of the representatives were like, you know, we need to start planning and getting some things going. And so we just, with the committee as well, we all just said, you know what, let's try it electronically and online this time. This will give us time to get the platforms in order. So that's what I'm suggesting that we do. We would extend, instead of having our usual 2-day mass gathering for benefit enrollment, we'd open it up for the entire month of May. That would give employees a lot more time to get educated on our benefit plans, make those selections, contact human resources if they need assistance with any of the online platforms, come in and use the computer, whatever they need. The vendors have all said, yeah, they've started working on how we can best accomplish that as well. So that's kind of what we're thinking for this year. IMA, our benefits consultants, are putting together a really nice educational piece. It's called a Brain Shark, and it is a presentation where everyone could log on and hear, get a lot of detail on what their benefit options are and what the programs are and that type of thing. So I'm kind of excited. It may even work so well that we'll want to do it every year, which would avoid the lines and people grumbling because they're missing work, or the supervisor saying, where are my people? So anyway, that's, if you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. If you just think that is not something that we need to be looking at, please let me know.
So just for clarification, Pat, you're talking about this just being online and renewal?
Yes.
Meaning, we're not gonna go along here with an online deal, and then as the last 2 days come up, there,
People
anybody
to
that's,
see.
I'm sorry?
People to see, you mean?
Yeah.
No.
So they're not gonna have that option at the end of coming in person and doing it, it's just gonna be, okay.
If they want, some of them said, hey, we can do Zoom, we can do Skype, we can do FaceTime, we can do some face-to-face, but it would be distanced, you know, just to have that personal touch. They're open to that too. The committee, I will ask the benefit committee to make sure they're kind of pushing their people. Molly and I will have a checklist on who we need to reach out to if they have questions or problems or need help, so that we don't miss anybody. We are gonna keep enough control, so so that the employees don't accidentally opt in or out of something they didn't mean to. So if, for example, they're online and we notice that they made a change that's radically different, we'll probably reach out and say, hey, this is what's showing up, is that what you meant to do? Because it's pretty devastating to think that you have a coverage and need it and find out that you opted out. So we wanna make sure that doesn't happen.
Do you need anything from us on this?
I don't think so.
Just
wanted-
information?
Yeah, just
Okay.
wanted to give you that information and so you could ask me questions
Yeah.
and concerns and that type of thing. So the next one is really great news. That's our health insurance renewal numbers. It's health plan renewal options, this form. IMA, break this down in this format, hopefully, so it's easier to kind of digest. The first column, current as at expected, has a number of 738. That number signifies the amount that the county is responsible for, or the county is charged per life, or per belly button member on our plan. So, dependents, employees, all of that, that's where that cost comes in. They also broke it down, if you wanted to see what the admin fee was, our stop loss protection, which is set at $50,000, and our expected claims. So they broke it down that way. Total estimate, annual cost at expected, what is expected to be paid out was 2.1 million, rounded. We are currently running at 71% of that expected, 1.5 rounded. And so then I took the annual cost that our Care to Thrive clinic is costing, and it is $272,000. So basically, we are doing a fantastic job at lowering our costs, getting healthy, getting well, and utilizing that Care to Thrive, so it's more than paying for itself. That leaves us, if we stay on track for the last couple months, a net savings of $344,000. So that's this year. If we look at the renewal, again, at expected, that top number, if we kept it exactly the way we have it this year, is $692 per month per life. And then upon their IMA's recommendation and suggestion, they asked about a $0 copay for telehealth. And so Blue Cross Underwriting approved that, so the cost stayed the same all the way through. It did raise by just a few cents our expected claims. And I think that they're thinking that maybe more people would utilize that. But anyway, it's not that significant. If we did the $0 telehealth and then added a $100 emergency room copay, then we would save a bit more. The purpose of the $100 ER copay it's not gonna be for everybody that goes to the ER. But if you have a kiddo that falls off of their bicycle Saturday night and they cut themselves, or whatever the case may be, use the telehealth and they can say, no, just put a Band-Aid on it and watch it, they're okay, or they hit their head, watch for these things. That would cost them $0. If they went to the ER, it would cost the plan a lot, and they would get charged that $100 copay because it could have been handled as an office visit, if that makes sense. That might not be the best example. We have a bit of emergency room use that wouldn't need to be there. It's just, some people just go to the ER because stuff happens on the weekends, but they could probably wait until Monday or do it less expensive. So anyway, we wanna take that expense and the worry of the telehealth, off the table.
Do you see that now having an urgent care in Ford County, do you see that that would reduce the chance of somebody maybe going to ER?
It could. I don't have personal knowledge of the urgent cares, but I do know that the wait times were a bit extreme. So, of course, if everybody's going to the ER room wait to be seen is a bit significant too. So, it actually might benefit the urgent care center, because if people can call telehealth at zero cost, then the people who actually need to be seen for an urgent care matter could be seen quicker. But I don't know, that's personal opinion. Anyway, I'm really happy about this renewal. It's great to see a decrease, because that just doesn't happen in healthcare very often. It allows us to give our employees even more benefit without compromising the budget. My recommendation would be to accept the plan renewal from Blue Cross Blue Shield and take option 2, which would be 0 telehealth copay and a $100 ER copay. The rest of the plan would stay exactly the same.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve and opt for health plan renewal, option 2.
I'll second that. I'll let the motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is the Workwell Kansas 2020 Initiative participation. KU Med out of the Wichita campus has a grant around wellness and worksite wellness. We've participated for several years. We received a gold award a few years ago for our support of breastfeeding mothers. And last year was the tobacco initiative on curbing tobacco use. 2020's initiative is physical activity, which I find pretty timely, considering people are trying to figure out how to stay healthy with the gyms closed and the social distancing right now. This doesn't cost the county anything. Most of the work is done by Workwell. The county commission does need to support it in an affirmation and a signature. The employees, the wellness committee at Work Human Resources has to do an assessment, needs to take an assessment, and employees will be asked to take individual pre and post assessments to see how we're doing. It's not mandatory, it's just requested. So, of course, everybody knows that physical activity is supposed to be good for you. It makes you healthy and reduces absenteeism and those types of things. So, basically, this is a formality, just an enhancement to our wellness.
Do you need a motion on this one? Because you need somebody to sign?
I need a signature, yes, sir.
Okay. I would make a motion to work with the Workwell Kansas 2020 Initiative participation.
I would second.
A motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And the last one's off, right?
Right.
Didn't hear that signature. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
gentlemen, the only upcoming meeting we have right now is the open enrollment for benefits, which is May 19th and 20th, and we discussed that already.
Okay,
And the next thing we have is the executive session.
so I would move the board to recess into executive session to discuss upgrades to the Ford County Government Center's building security system pursuant to the matters relating to security measures, exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, KSA 754319B12. We're gonna use 30 minutes. And we are gonna start this at 5:30, so we'll be back open at 6 o'clock. We'll give a 10-minute break here.
What do you have in there?
Oh, in addition to the commissioners, we have the county administrator, the assistant county administrator, IT director, maintenance supervisor, county chief of fire EMS, the county sheriff, and the county counselor. If we are not at a 10-person head, then we're okay.
I would second the motion.
Motion second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll start at 10. Thank you. All right, so we are back out of the executive session. And there is no action. So I'd make a motion to adjourn.
I second
Motion seconds. As we go into some discussion on anything. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.